Those present and anyone watching the recordings can complete a survey about the candidates, which is available on the presidential search web page by clicking on, quote, Meet the Candidates icon. Each candidate survey period opens at the beginning of their visit and closes 24 hours after the video is posted. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Andrew Bowne. Dr. Bowne will take the next 15 to 20 minutes to make a brief opening and to share his 90-day plan as president. Questions will be taken from the floor after Dr. Bowne has finished his presentation. Also, with regard to surveys, we do have paper surveys for you if you need them, but of course, we prefer that those surveys are through the Meet the Candidates icon. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Andy Bowne.
Thank you. Well, good morning. It is a privilege to be here with you today and to talk about my interest in leading your great college. I'll have a few comments and then we'll open it up for questions. So maybe a little bit about me, at least for me professionally. I have been working in community college leadership roles for about 16 years. I started at Grand Rapids Community College, which the Grand Rapids Community College is a very similar size to Tidewater. And so when I started with them, I workforce side of the college, non-credit leading that group. And I did that for about 2.5 years. And I'm happy to answer questions about that. But my role was really to reposition that part of the college to be really successful. And I did that for about 2.5 years. And then the president called me one day and said, hey, we have an opening in our foundation. And I think it'd be a really good opportunity for you to consider. And would you please consider it? And so after some thought, I said, I will consider it and I'll apply. And I was fortunate enough to get the job. And so for 7 years, I led the Grand Rapids Community College Foundation as their executive director and associate vice president for college advancement. When I left, so in my time at GRCC, I came to love this work that we do, the mission that we have in community colleges. And I remember a very specific day in a conversation with the president. His name is Juan Oliveras, and he's one of the people I aspire to be like. And I went to Juan and I said, Juan, I know what you hired me for. I know what the task is, the job itself. But what do you expect of me? And he looked at me without a pause. And he said, Andy, I want you to love this place as much as I do. Oh, man. I get choked up every time I think about that and the impact that he has had on my life and, frankly, the impact that we have collectively on the lives of our students and their families. And that solidified my career path and that I am committed to the work of community college for the rest of my career. And so part of that conversation led to, Andy, I think you might have the makings of being a community college president, and we should prepare you for that. And in that journey, I decided to apply for a job at Ivy Tech Community College. And Ivy Tech, somewhat similar to the Virginia Community College system, other than Ivy Tech is one statewide community college, so we're singly accredited. And so I was fortunate enough to land at Ivy Tech as the chancellor of the East Central region. And with the years under my belt, we expanded that to 2 regions. And so I had 6 campuses that I led in East Central Indiana, and loved that and loved the work of leading that campus and being engaged in community. And then we hired a new president, and she said, Andy, I'd like you to come be our chief operating officer. And so I've done that. I've done that for the past 3 years. Currently, I support all 18 of our campus chancellors, the enrollment management, enrollment strategy, group. I lead that statewide along with marketing and communications, strategic initiatives, which include strategic planning and change management, and then public safety and emergency preparedness. I think I got them all. And it kind of sounds like the drawer we all have in our kitchens, right? Where you just throw stuff in there and there you go, you've got a team. But it actually works out really well because our job is to serve campuses and the faculty, staff, and students there. So that's me in the community college world, and I aspire to be your next president. And you have a great college, and you know that. I also finished the Aspen Institute about a year ago for community college excellence and had a tremendous experience that shapes how I think about how we lead together. We lead community colleges. So that's enough about my career. Let's talk about moving forward. So in my presentation this morning, oh, you know what? It's not up there. Sorry about that, folks. So this morning, very briefly, I'd like to talk to you about my vision for Tidewater Community College, some initial goals that I see for us together moving forward, an action plan for 90 days, although frankly, you can't do it all in 90 days. It will continue well beyond that. My commitments to you as to faculty, staff, students, and community. And then we'll open it up for you to start firing away at me. So here's my vision, that Tidewater Community College would be a diverse, inclusive learning environment where all faculty, staff, and students feel that they belong, that feel that you belong, and that we live out shared governance really well. I know it's a value that you hold near and dear, and that fits well with me. We need to be not only a statewide leader, but a national leader in equitable outcomes for students. Access, success, and something we don't talk a lot about, post-completion success. And what I mean by post-completion success are those students when you leave Tidewater Community College, you've earned your credential and you move on to that next stage. If you transfer to one of our four-year partners, how well does that go for you? How well does that go for our transfer partner, and how prepared are you? That we have to think about that. And we have to think about that in terms of equity, not just in terms of students that fit these characteristics, but for all students that transfer. Where do they transfer to and how successful are they? And then we can use that information to help us better lead and do our work at Tidewater Community College, whether it's advising or otherwise. And then the other piece is if the students are in a program that leads them right directly either into or back into the workplace, that they are well prepared to do that, that our employers are pleased with our graduates, and that our graduates are pleased with the preparation they've had to go be successful in their careers. So that's what I mean by post-completion success. That we're going to be an even greater partner with our community, with the business community, with our K-12 partners, with our university partners, with the nonprofit world, with families in this region. And I am committed to us being a comprehensive community college. I actually think that aligns pretty well to what you believe already as a college. So, initial goals. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to increase enrollment. The challenges that have been faced over the last few years with declining enrollment turns into financial challenges, which I know, you know, has led to job loss. And that means people that were once part of the TCC family aren't part of that family today. I don't want to be the president that makes cuts. I want to be the president that works with you to grow Tidewater Community College. So we've got to reverse that trend. And I will tell you at Grand Rapids, at Ivy Tech Community College, last year and again this year, our enrollment is up after a many-year decline, just like you've experienced. so it can be done. We have to increase completions and the awarding of credentials so that students are well prepared for transfer and well prepared for the workforce. We've got to close the equity gaps for students. Certainly, there are things that you're already doing very well, but there's more work to be done in closing that gap so that every student who walks in the front door of Tidewater Community College has an equal expectation of being successful. And there are areas where that isn't necessarily, at least from a data standpoint today, where that's not entirely true. So we can fix that. That's in our ability to address. We're going to meet workforce demand. You do that in so many ways now, but we will continue to be more and more responsive to the community in a way that we can do as a college, that we can afford to do, that we have partners to do. We're just not going to go be everything for everybody. We're going to pick the right things that allow us to do that. My goal is that we're going to foster internal relationships. The pieces that I pick up on and the research that I've done in preparation for these days, I know that things aren't always entirely happy. And I don't mean that life every day has to be rainbows and unicorns, but I do mean that we need to come to work every day and feel valued and engaged and feel that we belong. I also think that we, with our community, need to deepen our relationship with our community, with the communities we serve. And so you can count on me to help lead that effort. And then finally, of these initial goals, there's this little $20 million campaign hanging out there. And we got to wrap that up, and we've got to be successful in doing that. And I believe that we can be. I will tell you, I've never led a fundraising campaign where we weren't successful. And if I have the opportunity to be your president, this one won't be the first one. So let's talk about what does this look like. So initially, from a leadership perspective, from an operational standpoint, and then I'm going to get heavy into the 90-day plan. First of all, top of my priority list is to recruit, hire, and bring on board an executive vice president, a chief academic officer, and student affairs officer to lead this college. What I don't know yet is that one role or not? And we'll figure that out together. But I'm going to say this to all of you, and I'm saying it specifically to the faculty and our academic leadership. We will make this decision together. This isn't a matter of who do I want to lead academic affairs and student affairs. It's who is best for us collectively. So I will ask you to engage with me in that process. I want to better understand how the system can help us. There are significant resources there. That's probably one set of experiences that I have at Ivy Tech, working in the systems office and having served for years at the campus level, how that interface can and should work and the resources that we should be drawing to help us collectively do our best work. It's going to be a heavy listening period. I will always listen. These next 90 days, these first 90 days are going to be heavily that, because I'm not going to have a lot to say in that time, but I'm going to have a lot to learn as your president. And so, but as things go and we hear about things, we're going to address things as they arise. I want to lay the groundwork for strategic planning. I know that it's waiting there. Kurt, I know that it is waiting there, ready to go. And I may say some things in here that may not totally align with what you're thinking, but we'll work through that as we think through the launch of a strategic plan. And then finally, in this initial set, it's really about strategic enrollment management and what have you been doing and what's working and what's not working. So, all right, 90 days, here we go. The first thing is I've got to be able to hit the ground running. And in order to hit the ground running, I'm going to be asking for information. And for those of you who have gone through a presidential transition, I'm not asking for anything that most presidents wouldn't ask for. I'm going to want area by area, what's working, what's not working, what are the trends, what are the things that worry you, what are you most proud of, those sorts of things, area by area. Included deeply into that will be strategic enrollment management that I just referred to a second ago. And a deep understanding of the fundraising campaign. I want to understand your metrics inside and out. I've looked at them. I know what's there. There are some things that are going really well and sort of things that we're still working on. But I want to understand those and understand those deeply. I want to understand the results of your last strategic plan. Where did it take you? What do you feel good about that? And what do we use from that to propel us forward? I'm going to ask for a list of those external connections, right? We're going to do lots internally, but I'm going to need to know who are the people. I can't answer that, but you can with me, and the board can, and the foundation can, the foundations can. We're going to figure that out, but I need to know who we need to get me out with because there's lots of work to be done. And then if it is appropriate, I would be very interested in joining the team that goes to the SACS conference in December. I will not be your academic leader, but I will be your advocate and your leader as a college. And I've worked in the world of the Higher Learning Commission. There are certainly differences between the HLC and SACS. And so I don't think there's a better way to do it than when the conference is happening in the not too distant future. So there's that. Let me talk very quickly about external, because then we're going to go inside. I'm going to want to talk to the folks that are the leaders out in our community. There are priority industries from an economic development standpoint for this region. There are some pretty consistent patterns across each of the economic development entities. Advanced manufacturing, business and professional services, health and life sciences, healthcare, life sciences, biomed technology, IT, maritime, obviously unique to this part of the country, and deep, deep opportunities there, and logistics and transportation. That's what our economic development organizations are saying are the priority for this region, to build a healthy economy. And so I think we need to be meeting with those folks and understanding what's working and what's not working. But then it's the K-12 partners, and it's our university partners, and it is meeting together with leaders of our local units of government, eventually state, and initially state as well, but eventually federal. But let's stay local right now. It's meeting with the faith community leaders. Who are our leaders in our community, our faith community, whether you're a person of faith or not, are significant influencers on students and families when they're considering college. And so how do we align well with them? And they need to know they have a strong partner in Tidewater Community College's president. And so the list goes on, right? These are the folks that I think as president, and I won't go alone, right? I'll be asking many of you to come with me to help us understand what's working and what's working. And so not only do I hear it, but you hear it as well. So let's come back inside now, right? I see about 50% of my time being spent externally and about 50% of my time being spent internally. I need to spend time with our board, right? That will be, in addition to the chancellor, to the president officially reports, those board relationships are critically important. And so I need to spend time with them. I need to spend time with our, not only the advisory board, but also our foundation boards, both the real estate and the educational foundation, and really getting to know them and the priorities that they see. I want to spend time with the faculty, with faculty senate, with the administrative faculty council, the classified association, student government, right? The internal groups that we need to meet with. And then I want to get to know you individually as well. And this is going to take time. But I want to meet with each of you one-on-one, if you'll meet with me. I'm making that invitation. We'll set up a plan of what that looks like. It won't happen in the first 90 days. I'm confident of that. There are way too many of us collectively for me to be able to do that. But could that be possible in the first year? And if you're the first one to go or the last one to go, I don't want you to read anything into that. It's a matter of how do we do this and what's your interest and how do we do that together. I find that in colleges that do this, that take the time to do this, that it's one more way of building that relationship of our working together and us being in this together. And then I also want to meet with our part-time faculty. They often get overlooked. For 12 years, I taught as an adjunct faculty member and loved that work. Most of the time, I just needed to come in and do my job and teach my class and serve students. But there were times when I wanted to really feel connected with the college. And so I think that's another part of something that I can do. And it probably won't necessarily be one-on-one, although I will if that's the desire. That's more apt to be in groups. But I want to hear what our adjunct faculty, our part-time faculty are experiencing. And then the student clubs and organizations. It's important to me, students, to know what you're thinking so that we can do this work together. So let me talk very quickly about commitments I'm making to you. I'm going to start with students first. Make sure that I'm going to start with our students. And for you, I know we've got at least one student in here, yes? Okay, there you go, student body. My commitment to you is to engage you, to listen to you, to learn from you, and to provide you with a learning environment with our faculty and staff, to provide a learning environment that happens in the classroom, that happens online, that happens in the clubs and organizations and student leadership work that we do. My commitment to you is that if you come to Tidewater Community College, that you have the same chance as every other student coming to our college. My commitment to you is that we'll have the resources available to make sure that, and it may not be us providing the resource, it may be community partners that are providing the resource to address the needs that you have as a student, that may be the non-academic needs that prevent you from all the success you can have with our college. My commitment is to listen to you and to learn to anticipate your needs. Not just me, but us as a college. And I'm not saying we're not doing that already, but I'm saying that's my commitment to you, student body. And my commitment to you is that we will be a community college that is a comprehensive community college that values both transfer preparation and transfer success, and workforce preparation and workforce success, so that you can have a great career moving forward, whether you go straight to that or you go to a four-year partner, earn your bachelor's degree and beyond, and then on to what's next for you. My commitment to our community members. We have community members in the room. They've seen a lot of me lately, so I still want to share this, the commitments that I'm making to our community. Again, we will seek your guidance and ensure that we are appropriately aligned and responsive to your needs. Again, that doesn't mean everything to everybody. That means what makes most sense for these communities and for the work that we can and will do. That there is a deep, mutually beneficial relationship between our work and the work that you do as community in supporting students in educational attainment. We know that that's the driver that improves and enhances our community in so many ways. That I'm committed to community, striving to equitable outcomes for all students. That will partner with you to address our community's most pressing needs. Not every need, but the ones that make sense for us to assist with and to engage fully in that. I'll invite community to participate with us in the strategic planning process. And finally, to report to you on an annual basis the work that we're doing on your behalf. So now, back to family. To you as faculty and staff. I'm committed to you and commit to you to build a collaborative, engaging environment where you belong, where you feel that you belong. I'm committed to sharing leadership with you and to engage with you in leading the college, to ensure that the diversity of our communities is reflected in you, our faculty, staff, and leadership team. And I'm committed to you to have an inclusive strategic planning process where at least 50% of full-time faculty and 50% of full-time staff have the opportunity to meaningfully participate in the strategic planning process. At the end of the day, it's our plan. It's not a leadership plan. It's not a board's plan. It is our plan, and we need to do that together. And then finally, I commit to being available to you in a meaningful way. You'll see me on your campuses. You'll see me engaged in the life of the college, in the life of your life with students, in a way that's meaningful. It won't be just drive by, hey, I stopped by and walked through campus, but you'll see me on campus with time there. So that's me, and that's my hope for us. What questions do you have?
Before questions are raised, technically, Dr. Bowne, any questions that you could just give a brief synopsis of that question so the recording.
Oh, absolutely, I will do that. Yeah, I will attempt to do that. And actually, is it Stacy? And I may not have the name right. Faculty Senate Chair. Sarah, I am so sorry. The wrong S. You gave me 3 questions. Do you want me to address all 3 at some point, or just the one I didn't address? Okay. Yep. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So question number 2, what we have not started yet, was in order to improve enrollment, what do you think are the most important factors to consider in this?
Yeah. So I think the most important factor, so the question is, from an enrollment standpoint, what are the most critical factors that we need to address in increasing enrollment? So I think there are a number of things that we need to pay close attention to. First of all, do we have the right methodologies there, the right strategy there? If you look at the fundamentals of strategic enrollment management, there are a number of factors in there. The thorough, and now I'm going to talk market segments, right? Let's talk about student populations. Let's talk about age groups. Let's talk about the diversity of our students and those students who are coming to us and those students who aren't coming to us, those students who are coming to us and not staying with us, and why aren't they staying? So there'll be a deep level of analysis that has to be done at the front end of good, thorough strategic enrollment management planning. So there's that analysis work that has to be there. Secondly, we're all in this, right? If we're going to grow enrollment, it's going to take all of us. Enrollment management happens in the classroom. Enrollment management happens in advising appointments. Enrollment management happens in a career conversation and guidance for a student. It happens in the leadership development activities that we have on campus for students. It's the way that we engage students. And so where I have seen success in our campuses at Ivy Tech, and again, we are up last year and up halfway through or almost halfway through the fall term, looking at summer and fall. We're up for a second year after a 7-year dive that has had the same impact on Ivy Tech that it's had here. So it's good planning, good assessment, and then it's making sure that the resources are there. So it's one thing to say we're going to grow enrollment. It is completely different to say what resources are we going to allocate to this, and if we're allocating resources to this, and I don't mean that some of those are financial resources, because there's budget that needs to be associated with that, but it's also about us and how do we free up time for us to do enrollment work. And I think a lot of it can fit, especially from a faculty standpoint, can build into the flow of the work that you're doing, the way you engage students. But it will mean additional effort in certain areas. And so making sure that we free up time to be able to do that. At Ivy Tech, we've adopted something called a book, and the methodologies in it called the 4 Disciplines of Execution. And one of the fundamental things in that book is that our work, the day-to-day work that we do, they call it the whirlwind. And when we add stuff into that whirlwind, the whirlwind will consume it every time, because we're going to go back to the things that we do that have to get done, and that's an extra, so it seems. And so you've got to learn to carve out 10% of your week to do this additional thing. So how do I free it up? It means something's got to go. Because I know you're all working hard and you spend a lot of time here. And whether the time is here or it's home because you're teaching online or grading assignments at night on the weekend and so forth, I know we're given a lot. So those are a number of the factors that contribute to that. Yes, the 4 Disciplines of Execution. I don't remember the author's name. Yeah. Okay, thank you. What else? Good morning. Fantastic. Okay. That's a really good question. I will do my best to paraphrase it. The question is, did you start with what are some of the challenges that we face, right? Okay, the strength. Oh, good. Let's have fun. Yep. Okay, so the strengths. Let's talk about the strengths. We'll set the challenges aside for the time being. When we think about the strengths, when I look at you as a college and think about things that you do really well for, that you're recognized for nationally, I think of your work around OER, the work with open source educational resources. You do exceptional work there. Your Z classes, your Z courses are a really good move. I would brand the daylights out of that because that, for a student that is looking for the best value in town, it's already here. But one more way that we demonstrate that value is with Z courses. And I think the opportunity to do more and more of that work, again, faculty, that will be your leadership in doing that. But the ability to do that, to brand that, and to really carry that into the community for those students, that price point makes a difference, cost relative to value makes a difference. That is something that's incredibly important to them. Secondly, I think when I look at your guaranteed admission programs with 4-year partners, that is an exemplary opportunity. Not every state has that. And to have those terrific partners in your backyard makes it even better. You create a seamless pathway for students to move from Tidewater Community College, from TCC, to Old Dominion, or to Norfolk State. And I know that there are many others, William and Mary, Virginia Tech, University of Virginia, to name a few. There's no better value for students than being able to make that transition and to afford to earn a bachelor's degree in a way that is a great price point and a great value to them. So I would market the daylights, brand the daylights out of that. And then I think the other area that I think is that you do exceptionally well and that you recognize, whether you know it or not, as a national leader, is with the Center for Military and Veterans Education. You serve veterans well. Really, really well. And thank you for that. The for-profits, that's lunch for them. They are deeply embedded with those who are actively serving. They're deeply embedded not only with them, but with a spouse, with their children. They know who they are. We've got a much better value to offer them. And the question is, how do we brand and market that? And how do we assertively, I'm not a huge fan of the word aggressively, but assertively brand to those who serve and those who have served. Okay? Did I answer? Okay. All right. Keep them rolling. Whoop. Absolutely. So the question is about advising. How do I see advising and the role of the community college and in the life of the campus and the life of our students? Advising and counseling, those roles are critically important for our student success. At Ivy Tech, when I was serving as chancellor, I was asked to co-lead the redesign of our advising model at Ivy Tech Community College, along with our assistant vice president for advising. And so we pulled a team together of faculty and staff, of advisors, of others in the college to lay out a really, I don't think we use the word intrusive advising anymore. I think I hear terms like proactive advising and so forth. But we have to reach into the lives of our students. We have resources available to us, systems available to us to know when students are falling off track. Our faculty know that. We can partner more deeply in that to be deeply embedded in the lives of our students, so that when we see something that's not just quite right, that we're reaching out and we're engaging those students. That when we think about the pathway work that's taking place and think about how we're preparing students for successful transfer and career, the role of advising, whether done by the advising and counseling staff or in the work of faculty, is critically important to how we guide and mentor students towards success. Yes.
Yes. We, as I'm sure you are aware, draw students from 5 very different cities. And
Yes.
The educational systems are quite different, sometimes radically so. So what I would like to know is, do you have experience with working with very disparate groups like that to try to bring them into a cohesive whole?
Yes. Yes, I have. And so the question is the experience realizing that each of the communities we serve and the public schools or the school systems that are there, the experience with each is different. And so what does that mean for us? And do I have experience in that sort of relationship building? So maybe a couple examples from Ivy Tech Community College. We live outside of Muncie, Indiana, which is the home of Ball State University. And oh, by the way, Ivy Tech Community College, Muncie. But we always talk about Ball State. The Muncie Community Schools, Muncie is an urban community of about 70,000 people. East Central Indiana was deeply impacted in 2008 and 2009 in the Deep Recession. And over a period even before that of a couple decades, the loss of jobs that has turned into generational poverty. And so the Muncie schools have a certain demographic of high levels of poverty, although in that school corporation, there are also faculty members from Ball State and Ivy Tech and other leaders in the community who their experience isn't generational poverty, but they go in the same school that these students go from. Move over 5 miles and you have Yorktown, Indiana. Yorktown, Indiana is a more affluent community. When I started with Ivy Tech and I met with the superintendent there, she said, "Oh, I'm so glad that you're going to live in Yorktown." We hadn't decided which school corporation our kids were going to, but we decided to live in Yorktown. And she said, "Oh, it's so nice to meet you. Our students don't go to Ivy Tech." Right? How many times have you heard that? Oh, that. Well, oh, by the way, 39% of last year's graduating class is at Ivy Tech this year. But, they don't go there. So a very high performing school corporation in the state of Indiana, and a school that's a middle of the road performing, and students coming to us and how we engage them. In Muncie, a new superintendent, new principal a few years ago, and we've started an early college program. The students, 27% of their students that graduated this year walked across the stage at Ivy Tech, either earned a certificate or an associate degree before they walked across the stage for the high school graduation. Oh, by the way, in the same auditorium. That's profound. And the partnership between Ivy Tech and that school administration, but also the faculty, and aligning and making sure that we can do it in the most cost-effective manner was critically important. And I was the chancellor at the time and helped pull that partnership together. At the same time, you have students in Yorktown who, oh, by the way, many of their students are college ready and many of their students aren't college ready. They weren't interested in an early college program at this point. And so we serve them differently from that standpoint, but we still offer dual credit courses there. And so students, and that is one way that we work with high schools to ensure that when their students leave high school, they're college ready. Thank you. Yes. Good morning. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you very much for the question. So if I paraphrase the question mostly accurately, the question is, given the deep presence, military presence here in the Hampton Roads area, and the commitment that we've made as a college to serve these students in light of the competition for students, what would my role be in this, and how will I lead the college in this way? Is that a good, fairly accurate paraphrase? Good, thank you. So I've started that process already in my own little digging, and happened to have a friend of a friend who was stationed here for many years, and could have the conversation with him about what his experience was. He didn't have the direct experience. He was an officer, but his enlisted sailors were. And so what he shared with me is that the trick is in how we're being responsive to them, the way in which we deliver courses. When we think about distance ed courses, and do we offer them synchronous, asynchronous? If I'm deep under the surface and don't have access to the internet, can I continue to pursue my studies as a student? His assessment of Tidewater Community College is that we do very good work, but there's a lot of market there that we haven't figured out how to serve. And so I think you may have seen on my list of who are the folks that I want to talk to, and would engage you in doing that as well, is I want to talk to leaders from the Navy, present here, and the Coast Guard as well. We'll go across the water next, but let's start there. As I understand it, the presence here in Southampton Roads is Navy and Coast Guard. Is that generally accurate? Somewhat. Some Army. Okay. All right. But that would be my approach. Yeah. Thank you. Good morning. Yes, Thomas. Mm-hmm.
My question has to deal with Tidewater Community College
Yeah.
And now you're seeing a lot of encroaching competition that you have 40 competitors. And some of those competitors are going to undermine credit. It's like a partner over many.
Sure.
My question is, what experience do you have with this type of competition?
Thank you. So the question is, with all of the competition for students, and students of all types, what experience do I have in working through that? So at Grand Rapids Community College, Grand Rapids has a greater Grand Rapids metropolitan area has a population that is pretty similar to the Southampton Roads area. And so we had, in that geographic area, we had 14 physically present, let alone all of the online options that were there. And so we worked very closely so for example, with our four-year partners, and particularly the public four-year partners, we worked very hard at understanding and clarifying and having agreements between what is each of our swim lanes. And we even have this, we do this at Ivy Tech in Indiana, where it most often butts heads maybe a little bit at times, is with the regional campuses of one of our flagship, IU, Indiana University. They have regional campuses throughout. And the way things are set up from the Commission of Higher Ed is that they are not to offer associate degree programs, that is, and below, that is our swim lane. That's not their swim lane. And we have had times when they have, well, we're going to, as a part of this bachelor's program, we're going to start to offer an associate degree program. Oh, by the way, that happens to be a program that we offer, a quarter mile away. And so meeting together with that chancellor, our academic leader at that campus, the vice chancellor of academic affairs, and the two of us would go and meet with their chancellor and their provost to work that through. And sometimes it's just a matter of reminding them that, look, these are our swim lanes and you've crossed into ours, and we need you to back off. And sometimes there'll be some pushback back and forth about that. And there have been times when we'll reach out to the Commission for Higher Ed, which is the organization that oversees higher education in the state of Indiana, and say to them, fine, we're going to have this conversation. IU blank is in our business. And I thought we had really clear swim lanes. You're right, we do have really clear swim lanes. Get out of that space. And so, sometimes you have to have those very frank, hard conversations. Now, let me give you my general philosophy. If all institutions of higher ed, and I'm going to stay right now in the state institutions and the private nonprofit institutions, there's enough work for all of us. We are not meeting the demand of our communities. And I'm going to step back and say, from a workforce standpoint, there's room for all of us. If we're doing good work and we're not tripping over each other into each other's swim lanes. And so I think there's room. I think competition is good. I would prefer to think of them as our partners and how we do this together and how we clarify who does what. At the end of the day, with the for-profits, we've got to create a better value proposition for students to have them not be drawn in that direction. Okay, thank you. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So thank you. So the question is regional national survey results show that not among the top places to work, as well as with the one college, one voice. I'm not going to get it totally right, but I think you know what I'm getting at. That we've made some progress as a college, but not a lot of progress. And what would I do? Coming in with the opportunity to serve as your president, we're going to go right to work at that. You saw it on my list of top priorities. We're going to figure out together what it means to belong at Tidewater Community College. It's not just a matter of how do I go there and pick up a paycheck and go home at the end of the day. But how is it that I feel valued? How is it that I am engaged in the work that we do? How do I know when my work, our work is successful? How do I know when things are going well? And how do I know when we're off track? Either me, and I mean now Andy, but I also mean each of you individually. How do we know that? And how do we handle those situations? At Ivy Tech, we've partnered with an organization called Amplify. And they're a national organization that does, that helps employers look at their relationships with employees and how employees feel engaged with the college. And there are lots of different factors that we look at to address that. And we've set very deliberate plans about how we're going to do this, and where we see the college looks like this and the campus looks like, here's a campus that from a score standpoint is higher. What are they doing that other campuses aren't doing? I can tell you that one of the best practices I've seen, you heard me comment, and that is wanting to get to know you one-on-one. And where we see that campuses where that happens, not just from a president or a chancellor, but from a leadership standpoint, how we spend the time to get to know you, to understand you, and to find the ways to uniquely engage you are making all the difference in the world. We're going to have to define that together, what that means. But I don't want to go to a place where I don't feel like I belong and where I don't feel like I'm heard and engaged. And so we're going to have to define that together, but we're going to figure out how to make that happen so that each of you feels like this is a great place to work. And to me, it's not about how do we get to near the top of that list. To me, it's about how do you all feel? How do we feel about being part of the TCC family? Is it a good family? Is it like many families that, well, then there's Andy over there. right? That there's a bit of dysfunction in the family. How do we work through that? We got to call it what it is and then address it. Thank you. Yes, Loretta. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the question is, who do I think is the most important stakeholder in an organization like a community college? Whew, that's a good one. Ultimately, I think it's our students. We exist for our students. Without our students, none of us need to come to work. That's just the plain, simple truth. However, in order to best serve our students, we have to take care of each other. If we don't take care of each other, we're not going to do a very good job of taking care of our students. We've talked about it a lot already this morning. There's lots of opportunity for our students to go to college. One of those options is us. We have to be our best us so that we can have our best students. Yep. Whew. All right. Hi there. Yes, Kurt. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. So the question is, I talked earlier, made comment about what part of the team that I have the privilege of leading is our change management group. And what does that look like? And maybe an example. Change management is something that is often overlooked in organizations. And we just push forward with an initiative. And we don't take the time to build the buy-in for it and the understanding of why we do it. I can give you an example of how we've done it poorly, an example of now how we do it much more effectively. A couple years ago, we launched a program we call Achieve Your Degree, and that's going out and serving employers. We take a team into the employer to help them develop their employees. And typically that's through, and in this case, it is through college courses and pursuing their education. And so we go in, we take a team in, we do a deep dive with them. We understand what the company's willing to pay for through tuition reimbursement. And whether it's specific programs or I don't care what program it is, I just want them to go to college. And so I'm willing to pay for it. And then we do some pretty simple things after that. Every student that we serve there fills out a financial aid form. They fill out the FAFSA. Here's the other thing we do that's the big game changer in this. We defer tuition to the end of the semester. The biggest challenge for frontline employees in going to college is I don't have the money to pay for the class up front and then to wait until 3-4 months later. Oh, and then the processing time before I get reimbursed. So how about if we defer tuition to the end of the semester? The employer signs an agreement and says, yep, we'll do this. We're good for the tuition. Let's get to the end of the semester. Oh, by the way, most of the students are actually already qualifying for some level of financial aid. And often the employer tuition reimbursement plan isn't even accessed. But when it is, it is. And we've gained thousands of students of doing that. So here's what badly about that. When we launched that statewide, we had a partnership. A partnership had been negotiated with the Indiana Chamber of Commerce that as campuses, we would give a 5% tuition discount. Nobody asked the campuses about it. They weren't real happy about that, especially the campuses that were really struggling financially. In the end, a commitment had been made on behalf of the college. And in the first year, then, from a systems office standpoint, from the president's office, we covered the cost of that. But in year 2, it's the campus. So there are some ways to mitigate that. That went badly. We learned a lot from that. Now today, as we implement a change, I'll use an example, we're moving to mandatory advising. And so our students will get a PIN that allows them to register for classes. Limited enrollment programs already have it. It's no big deal there. For everybody else, it's like, oh no, you're going to put a barrier in place so students can't register. And that's going to be a problem when enrollment's a challenge. So if we'd have done it the old way, we would have just pushed forward and said, we're going to do this. Instead, we took the time to build a case of why do we do it? And we literally call it a change story. And it tells the story and builds the understanding of why is this change necessary? So there's the change story portion of it. The other piece of it is we're going to slow down, and they're not going to ram it through. We're going to slow it down and take the time to build the consensus across the campuses. Does that mean that everybody's on board with it? Nope, not everybody's on board with it. Does it mean that most people are on board with it and those that have to carry it out are on board? Yes, it means they're on board because we took the time to build the case for why this was best for students and best for the college. Then it works. So, but it's being intentional and taking your time to, sometimes you gotta, what do they say? Go slow to go fast. Sometimes that's true. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out to the first Informed Candidates. As a reminder, I would encourage you to fill out the survey. You can see that survey on the PCC's website, on the presidential site. Click the Meet the Candidates icon. If you like paper surveys, we have that available for you as well. Thank you so much, and Dr. Bowne, if you have
I was hoping I'd have a chance to make a closing statement. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for the time that you've given to me. My wife Ruth was with us yesterday and got to see parts of campus and spend time in the community. You have made us feel, as candidate, very, very welcome. And that speaks a lot to me, to who you are as a college. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for the generosity you've shown in your time and your engagement with us. I would love to serve as your next president. I believe in every bit of my being that I can bring the skill sets that are needed to move Tidewater Community College forward in a positive way, to build a sense of community within the college, to even more significantly impact our community in terms of how we serve employers and community and students and family. And together we change the lives of our students. It would be a privilege to serve you, to serve our students, and to serve our community. And I'd ask you to very seriously consider me in that capacity. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day. Thank you.